So the dueling game started, is a sport that combines playing ball and flying on a broomstick. Mash was a participant of the team called Adler. But he was standing on the ground because he couldn't fly and the audience started to resent it. His friends started to worry about him. Suddenly Tom flew up to him and yelled at him and told him that he should be as strong as bamboo. Tom wanted him to activate his bamboo power, but Mash didn't understand what bamboo had to do with it. Tom began to explain the rules of the game. The idea is that players have to throw the ball into the ring without using magic. After that, Tom wanted to join to the team because it was losing. Suddenly an opponent crashed into Tom and Tom fell from a great height. His female fans got really worried. The rival lied and said it was an accident. Tom was very angry because the opponents were not playing fair and yelled at the opponent. Tom was hurt that now they would lose and told Mash that winning is not the main thing. The main thing is how you played, and the opponents were sure that they had been guaranteed to win, because Tom's team was -2 players. At that moment the opponents scored another goal. Mash took the broom in his hands and using his muscle power jumped up and he was able to fly. He stayed in the air by waving his legs like a fan and everyone was surprised. In the air, Mash asked an ally to pass him the ball. The opponents were confident that they would beat Mash, because he couldn't even fly, and the whole team pounced to him. At that moment Mash used his strength to throw the ball into the ring. After that his team scored a goal, but the opposing team had an advantage of more than 49 points. The ball went back to Mash. He had strong tactics and threw the ball again. Mash threw a few more balls and repeated this throughout the match. Mash managed to score a lot of points and then broke the record. Team Adler won with a score of 999 points. After the victory Mash got his first coin for his record, but Mash did not understand why the coin was not round. Suddenly, under the squeals of his fans Tom appeared and thanked Mash for the victory, and Mash thought that he would hardly find a common language with him. Mash was heavily publicized in a newspaper report because he had become famous for his record. In an interview, Mash said that it was all thanks to the enthusiastic support of an older schoolmate. A student was looking at an article about Mash in the newspaper and recognized him when he took the entrance exam with him. The student thought he was a naive fool for risking a chance to pass the exam for a stranger. After seeing a picture of his little sister, he set out to take Mash down. The next day, Tom and Lemon harassed Mash. Tom insisted on working out, and Lemon offered to help Mash with his studies. Mash asked Finn for help, but he pretended to be asleep. Suddenly Lance appeared. Tom couldn't remember him and was surprised that Lance had 2 magic marks. Lemon remembered him from the entrance exam because he was the first to be admitted. She also admired his beauty and said to herself that she could not look at handsome men, because her heart was already occupied by Mash. Lance suggested they have fun. Mash got up from the bench and thought it would be hide and seek. Lance took out a glass bottle. It was very rare and ancient. When he opened it, all of Mash's friends moved in there. His friends were terrified to be in the bottle. Lance suggested that Mash meet him in the woods if he wanted to save his friends. Later they met in the woods and Mash couldn't understand what it was all for. Lance proposed a bet for silver coins. Mash's friends who were in the bottle were surprised that Lance had 2 silver coins. Usually only upperclassmen have that many. Lance was also considered very dangerous because he had 2 marks on his face. Wizards with 1 magical mark are called one-liners. Such wizards in the world are the absolute majority, but there are those who have more than 1 mark. They are called 2-line magicians. For every 100,000 ordinary magicians there is one such. They are considered to be the chosen ones of magic. Then Lance set the rules for them to fight each other for silver coins. The one who incapacitates the opponent wins. Lance suggested to have the duel in the woods, because they were forbidden in the school. He also said that Mash had no right to refuse, because Lance had his friends. Lance was confident of his victory, because knowing Mash, he would not leave his friends in trouble and it would play to his advantage. He also added that at the entrance exam Mash showed himself as a naive fool, because only a fool puts someone else's goals above his own. His friends didn't want Mash to fight him because he was very dangerous. Mash couldn't wait to start fighting. Lance took out his wand and used magic to make the area bigger. Meanwhile, Ragro and Brad were worried about Mash and hoped he wouldn't give them any trouble. Suddenly there was an explosion and the ground shook. At that moment, Lance was ready to fight, but Mash attacked first and he was pressed into the ground by the magical gravity. Lance said that a man who thinks about others could never be the number 1. Mash proved to the arrogant Lance that he didn't need to overcome gravity to attack him. Mash slashed the ground, ripping out a long root and throwing Lance backwards. Lance tried to use the magic gravity again, but Mash could still move and hit him so that his necklace flew off. That's how Mash discovered the picture of the little girl. He couldn't believe that Lance was a lolicon and threatened to call the police to have him arrested. Then Lance replied that he was not a lolicon, he just loved his sister, but Mash was not relieved. Lance asked for the photo back, then asked what the world's greatest treasure was. Mash gave different answers, but they were all wrong. Lance was angry that Mash couldn't give the right answer right away. Lance said that the main treasure was his sister. Mash looked at him misunderstood and said that everyone has their own values. Then Lance went to the cliff and said that he would throw the bottle down, and for effect he would speed up the speed of the fall by using gravity. He's willing to do anything bad for his little sister. Lance remembered how angry she was that he got into a fight, but he lied about falling, but she knew the truth. The reason he got into a fight was because he was helping people who were being bullied. He loved his sister very much, but she had gotten very sick. Her illness was slowly taking away her magical abilities. In 5 years, when all her magical abilities were gone, the Bureau of Magic would have to execute her. Her parents accepted Anna's fate and Lance was furious and said they were no longer their parents. So he decided to become a divine seer to change everything. Then he threw the bottle and increased gravity with magic. At this moment, Mash changed his clothes and prepared to make an explosive dash. Then he rushed after his friends and managed to grab the bottle. In addition, he was already rushing upstairs at a tremendous speed. Lance was amazed by Mash's immense strength and tried to think of a plan to win. Mash said that Lance didn't look like a real villain and there was no point for them to fight. He also said that the bottle he was holding was a hoax. Mash quickly ran up to Lance and found the real bottle with his friends. Lance didn't understand why he wanted to end the fight when he'd won. Mash recalled his sister's words that he wasn't a reasonable man to act on logic. Lance gave Mash the lost coin. Mash's friends were very grateful to him for saving them. Lance was a good guy, and Mash wondered if he should have opened the bottle later at the academy.